We also started an annual conference in Davis that had its 21st Child Sexual Abuse Awareness Conference last month. We frequently focused on family court in that, which was consistently putting children with their identified sexual abusers. So time went on, the Battered Mothers Custody Conference started. We started as a nonprofit, the California Protected Parents Association, in 1999. We were trying basically to stop the slaughter of the innocents in California. We didn't even think about the rest of the country. We didn't even know what was going on in the rest of the country. So we started out, my wonderful partner in anti-crime, Karen Anderson, who's, yay, Karen, we'll applaud for Karen. Probably the fiercest warrior I've ever met, and possessed of an incredibly good sense of humor. We decided, first of all, we decided what to do and how we would structure our organization. We said, well, you be president and I'll be executive director. And then we looked them up and said, no, you be executive director and I'll be president, because one is an extrovert and the other is an introvert. So we parsed that out. Didn't know what we were doing. Next problem. What were the 3 branches of government? I don't know. I remembered 2. She remembered 1. We put it together. Okay, what we'll do is we'll just tell them what's happening, and they'll fix it, and we'll go out of business immediately. So we started with the legislature, and we started walking around every week with a new horrible case, a synopsis of a new horrible case. We did it for 52 weeks. We ended up with people putting great laws into place. We had total support, and the judges completely ignored them. So we realized, back to prayer. We have wicked judges, just like Habakkuk, the book of Habakkuk says. And by that time, maybe a decade ago, but over the last 15 years, we've gotten well over 3,000 contacts from mothers. We've gotten 10 contacts from men, from fathers. Of those, I would say 5 of them could qualify as mothers because they were being treated in the same way. Most of them were people of color. So we figured this is pretty much a women's issue. Wasn't any doubt about that. We figured it was. And we also began to profile mothers because they were already profiled. Look around you. Every one of you is attractive, intelligent, and assertive. You may have been beat to death, but that's how you started out, as attractive, intelligent, assertive. And also, many of you who called me said, I pray a lot. And I thought, okay. There were a lot of people who were Christian prayer people. I thought, sociopaths know what they're doing. They marry Christian women who will not kill them, no matter what, because we won't go to hell for their crimes. So that was pretty clever of them, I think. Every mother and the 5 decent fathers out of the 10 said they were fleeced of all their money, all their possessions, and when they couldn't afford an attorney, they were fleeced of their children. Their beloved children were taken. And they were left without, well, just like Job, homeless, penniless, relativeless, hopeless, covered with sores, sitting in a pile of ashes. That's where all these intelligent, attractive, assertive mothers have ended up, all of us. But there was a little spark left in almost all of us. Just a little spark. It was God's spark. So in 2003, we figured, okay, three women in Davis, that's not big enough. Well, we started a prayer conference call. And that didn't get to be much more than 3 to 5 people either. But I have to tell you, there's Kathy Lee right here. She's up at midnight because she's on the East Coast, and we arranged it at 9 o'clock on the West Coast, which was great. And the reason for 9 o'clock is that in Great Britain during World War II, which I was born in the middle of, all of London was to stop and pray at 9 o'clock at night when Big Ben struck 9, because they were being crushed by the Nazis. I mean, the Nazis they were on their shores. They were ready to just be wiped out. But the Brits are pretty stoic, and the Brits said, all right, we'll just keep praying. So they would pray. And one time, a huge squadron, I read this in the newspaper too, I mean, regular news press, so it might have had some truth to it. I think it does. A huge squadron of German MiGs came over, this gigantic squadron, and the Brits said, all right, and they put the duct tape on their 3 little planes, and they put the baling wires around the, wings, and they got up and they went at the, they figured we'll just go out and with a bang. And the MiGs all turned around and fled. They shot one of them down because it was really early in the, that period. The planes were probably off the ground this far, and then the pilot lived. And they grabbed the pilot and they said, "Why did you turn around?" I guess they got an interpreter. And he said, how could we have even stood up to the armada that you had coming at us? It was 9 o'clock.
Wow.
Over London. So we figured, well, that happened at 9 o'clock over London. We're going to keep praying. So we did. We figured the problem was much too big for human loss. We were looking straight in the face of evil. There's no doubt about it. And one woman even described her judge at one point. Something came over him, and she could see this slavering wolf head. And then his face came back, and she said, "I knew I was dealing with someone who was possessed." I understand that. I was Catholic for 10 years. I know about exorcism. So we decided to call ourselves Mothers of Lost Children, based on the mothers of the disappeared, because it was such an evocative thing. There are many other mothers groups who wear white T-shirts. There are women from Cuba. There are women from Uganda.
The Rose Street women?
No, there's another group from an African country.
Liberia.
The Liberian, yes, and they wore white T-shirts. So we thought, okay, we can follow these women. These women do things. And we started demonstrating. As I say, I don't even like to stand up to talk because my knees shake. But after a while, I'm out there with a bullhorn. Literally a bullhorn that I ordered over the internet. Because we couldn't figure out how to do microphones, There was no place to plug them in front of the White House. So during that time, we've had 10 marches in Washington, D.C. All right, first of all, we started praying, and then these miracles started happening. And we wouldn't have said they were miracles if we didn't look back and add them all up and think, that's not humanly organized, that is divinely organized. We've been joined by professionals who have the political skills that we lack. Kathleen Russell of the Center for Judicial Excellence has all of the media skills we lack. Carlin Waller walked into our lives and documented this marvelous movie. And most of us lack the self-esteem and the resources that these people have and they brought to us. And so our self-esteem went up. Regular citizens are pitching in now. Regular citizens are knowing this is a social justice issue of our times, the children. And they're doing it with the enthusiasm of civil rights marchers. We've educated people who knew nothing. We've educated people who knew nothing about the problem because we went to Fox News in LA a couple years ago, and they did a year-long series, which we have posted, a year-long series of television programs. And we knew it was pure evil because the wonderful man who started that, who had looked into had uncovered the ritual abuse in the McMartin case down in Manhattan Beach in the 80s, was the one who took us on. He said, I know about this kind of evil. And he took it on. And he found himself dead in the bottom of a ravine after a year of it. So we know that we have enemies. We have enemies. But they can't shut us all up. They can shut maybe Martin Burns up, and I want to dedicate my talk to him. But they can't shut us all up. So in our marches in Washington, D.C., after the president failed to answer any of our letters, which we sent him one after another, the only one he answered was after we sent it to his wife, who said, dear, I think you ought to at least answer the letters. And so he had someone send us, thank you for sharing on the Vietnam War type of letter that didn't even speak to our issue. But it didn't matter because that instigated us. That was God's will too, because it instigated us to take the next step and say, all right, we'll come to you. You won't answer our letters, we're coming to your house. You do. And we did. And we showed up in force. And I cannot believe our first march. It was unbelievable. Garland Waller actually videotaped it. And we had a huge banner, and she caught us coming down the corner with this banner waving and these flags waving and people singing. It was amazing. And we kept it up because we knew one time it's not going to do a thing. So we kept it up. If you go to mothersoflostchildren.org, you can see the marches, which Kathy Lee has documented. If it weren't for her little camera, which she used extraordinarily skillfully, we wouldn't have a movement. We would just have had 10 marches, but now we have a documented movement. On the heels of that, we decided, all right, well, as we're here in Washington, D.C., number one, we stumbled upon the suffragist headquarters and discovered that the suffragists, bless their hearts, which we don't call suffragettes. They said, no, that's a diminutive. We call them suffragists. They had a list of like 20, 30 different things they were going to accomplish. And the only one they didn't accomplish was the family problem, that men own women and children. And they had that on their list. But they couldn't complete that one. That was too hard a nut to crack. Voting, no problem. Employment, no problem. But they couldn't do that one. That was central to the patriarchal society. So we thought, okay, guess that's up to us. We don't know how to do it. We have no idea how to do it. But we're willing, and God certainly knows how to do it. So he'll just, as long as we keep a little Phoebe smoothie, then he'll do it for us. So we did, and we kept coming back. Now we've had business meetings at the biggest, fanciest law firm you've ever seen. Their lobby would hold the Empire State Building. You know, it's just scary. They love us. They love us. They can't believe that this is going on. They are working on the Hague Convention issues. They're just wonderful people. And one of the people who's helping us is, you know, I mean, somebody led to something, led to somebody, somebody to something. And there we were. In 2012, a federal commission to eliminate child abuse and neglect fatalities was established by a Congress that was so dysfunctional, they couldn't even agree where the bathroom was. I mean, you know, no laws got passed. Nothing got passed. But it was all the people on the Ways and Means Commission. We visited them, 20 or 40 strong, wearing our T-shirts. This never happens in Congress. I mean, they are so proper. One time, Kathy, we tried to make a joke. We tried to make a joke, and this man looked at her like she was from another planet. I said, I don't think they have a very good sense of humor here. So we didn't make jokes anymore, but the whole thing was a joke, because we would show up, and they would try to keep straight faces, but it was very hard to keep a straight face. We had congressional aides weeping with mothers telling their stories from their districts, from their states. We didn't know where it was going. We had no idea. It was like Johnny Appleseed out there, you know. All right, we'll go talk to them. I don't know who they are, but let's go talk to them. And pretty soon this commission came along. Because if they're going to stop fatalities, they're likely to also stop injuries. And we've written to them, and you all can write to them too. I wish you would. It's eliminate child abuse fatalities. Just Google that. Eliminate child abuse fatalities. And write them a little note that they're listening to us. Then, the Violence Against Women Act was reauthorized with a whole section, Section 102, about family court. We were invited to talk. We were invited. They paid for us to come and talk to federal officials whom we had in tears. People were in tears again on the federal level. So they have grants that are to focus on divorce court, including grants for court watch. Now that's what scares court watch scares judges most of all. The federal government is now giving grants to court watch. This is terrific stuff. We didn't have any hand in it. We just showed up and said our piece, and then they took it from there. And then the Office of Violence Against Women has established grants to create best practices in 4 of the worst counties ever. They're working in collaboration with these horrible officials to make those just best practices for us. That's brilliant. That's just brilliant. So there are many other things that I consider answers to prayer. So I know that God's listening to us. And he'll listen to your individual prayer. He'll listen to the one-word prayer, which is help, you know, please. He'll bring us to our knees so that we have nowhere else to go. We're crawling on our belly. Only place to go is God. And just like Darrow was. There's no place else to go, really. And I kept thinking, why didn't I start with this? You know, that was really dumb. You know, but I had to be knocked down and trampled on before I would say, okay, I give up. He enters into our lives exactly like he did in the ancient times. I mean, if you believe the Bible stories, believe it happens now. And I know that because he's entered into my life in really really strange ways. Because it turns out, when I was in the middle of my life, when I'm toward the end of my life now, in the middle of my life I went into hypnosis because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't remember half my childhood. What was in there, those blank years? Well, it turns out that my family, for all their proper behavior and look, military family, they were actually a group of people that worshiped evil and used me to do that. And I was used in every way that they could think of. If they could have thought of anything worse, they would have done it. But I was really good at dissociating. And I would have these remarkable experiences in the midst of a circle of men wearing black robes. Staked down in the middle of them was me. It was a little kid. And all of a sudden, I would see them, but the men couldn't see me. They were standing in the circle. And they were, I didn't have a word for it. They were huge, shining people. That's what I called them. And those were, I found out later, were angels. And they would say, and I'm just going to sound a little wah-wah, and you could, take what you like and leave the rest. I've been in 12-step programs for half my life. So take what you like and leave the rest. They would say, not really words, but it would come from inside. Say these words. And I, having nothing left to lose, right? I would say them. In the name of Jesus, I bind and rebuke you. And everybody would stop. It was like a plug had been pulled out of these men who were about to jump on it and do bad things. They would just, it was like the plug was pulled out. And I'd just somehow wiggle out of the situation. I'd crawl between their legs, I'd crawl upstairs, I'd get in bed, and they wouldn't bother me that night. So I know I've been there. I know that I've been protected. And I know that your children can be protected, and my children can be protected. And all you have to say is real simple. In the name of Jesus, I bind and rebuke you. And it makes them stop. They can't do it anymore. So I would suggest that you say that in court. Maybe quietly to yourself, so that you won't be hauled away, preferably with another person sitting there holding your hand. But I think it'll make a difference. Because the bad people can't do bad things. They can't do bad things. Some people are both in the name of Jesus.
I couldn't hear what you say. In the name of Jesus?
I bind and rebuke you. That's all. I mean, it's a real simple sentence. And somebody said, what's it mean? I think it means that you're saying to the devil, I'm tying you up and I'm scolding you. Get out of here. You don't belong here. So his name is huge. I had no idea. And they trained me to throw up if I heard that name or if I said that name. So I know it's important. When the bad people train you very vigorously not to be able to say that word, Jesus, it's a really important one. So anyway, we still have the prayer conference call going a good decade later, every night at 9 o'clock, California time. And I'll give you the number if you want the number. We'd love for you to call in. It's Christian-based, so it's a lot, if you're Jewish, you're going to hear a lot of Jesus. But, roll with it. He was Jewish. He had a nice Jewish mama. It's okay.
What is the number?
Okay, I'll give it out now. It's 641-715-3200. And then you have to do an access code, which is 891810#. And if you couldn't get that down fast enough, I'll tell you later. The other thing, and in closing, I'd like to say, we didn't have a march this Mother's Day because I just couldn't pull it together. We just had a conference and I was coming here and I just couldn't do it. That's the downside of getting old. The upside is, I'm getting old, I'm not dead. So this is the upside. But anyway, I couldn't quite do it this year, but we're going to have a march in October in Washington, D.C. And we wear our T-shirts, and we march around, and we've got a bullhorn, and if you want to tell your story, you can. And if you want to wear disguise, you can. And I would, if you have a current case, and you have any contact with your child, I would suggest, mustache, whatever you want. One woman wore like a beekeeper outfit, and a hat, a beekeeper outfit, so that you're not identified, because they will retaliate. They don't have any sense of at all. But you're more than welcome, and we need all the bodies we can get there. And we're planning, another group is planning a congressional briefing on what I consider the foundational issue in the United States, which is to end corporal punishment of children. So we're going to coordinate it with that. and they'll all show up for briefing again. We've actually had 2 briefings on our issue. That's how far we got. Not many congressional people came, but the right ones came, and who knows what's going to come of that. But this will be on ending corporal punishment, and we'll march, and we'll lobby, and we'll put it out there, and we'll pray. So.
What weekend? What day? Do you have the date set yet?
I don't know when they're going to plan it, and it won't be till closer, but I'll just keep a little, if you're not on our email list, I'll put your email address on here, and I'll send you emails, updates every month on what's going on. Because we don't have very many ways of communicating, and that's one, and it's a constant contact thing, so it's only to you, it's not to, a whole list of people, so your name won't get out there. Your email won't get out there. So anyway, we invite you. And these, for anybody who wants to come to the march, free t-shirt. For anybody who doesn't want to come to the march, free t-shirt.
And also miraculous medal too.
And
That's
miraculous
important.
medal.
Please help yourself.